Sir, if you want to speak while you're filling that out, I'll let you do that, and then you can do that before you sit down.
Okay, my name is Jay Rogers. I am the director of a Christian media group. We've done everything over the years from...
Could you identify an address for us too, please?
Sure, I'm sorry. 3083 Bloomsbury Drive, Kissimmee, Florida.
Thank you.
Over the years, we've done everything from missions in foreign countries to pro-life political action, pro-family issues, and street activism as well. I've had the opportunity to either be a part of or observe about several, I don't know the exact number, but several dozen of these neighborhood awareness campaigns where pro-life activists go into neighborhoods. I was actually the owner of the house in Melbourne that you referred to in Madison, and I was quoted in that court case by Scalia in a pretty scathing dissent that he made. So I'm very familiar with this. We're very familiar with Frisbee, and whenever I've observed these neighborhood awareness campaigns, we always try to be very aware of the parameters that are set down by Frisbee. And I just wanted to read just a short section out of Frisbee and tell you what it says and tell you why I think that this ordinance does not go along with that. It says that the ordinance, which is an ordinance that was in Brookfield, Wisconsin, leaves open ample alternative channels of communication. Although the precise scope of the ordinance's ban is not further described in its text, its use of the singular form of the words residence and dwelling suggests that it is intended to prohibit only picketing focused on and taking place in front of a particular residence. A reading which is supported by the appellant's representations at oral argument. The lower court's contrary interpretation of the ordinance as banning all picketing in residential areas constitutes plain error and runs afoul of the well-established principle that statutes will be interpreted to avoid constitutional difficulties. Viewed in light of the narrowing construction allows according to the ordinance, this is the important part, to enter residential neighborhoods, either alone or marching in groups, to go door to door, to proselytize their views or distribute literature, and to contact residents through the mail or by telephone, short of harassment. Now, your ordinance says, and this is in section C, under the actual language itself, it says that section 2C, under the ordinance itself, it shall be unlawful for any person or persons to protest, picket, or conduct any picketing or protesting activity within a buffer area of 50 feet from the property line. And this is the key of any single family residence. So what I was concerned about is that you're differentiating between a single family residence and then the entire residential area of Winter Park, where I think that what this is saying is that you're trying to create a no free speech buffer zone in the whole residential area.
Thank you.
So that was my concern.
If he
Appreciate
needs
the
an
time.
additional
You made
minute.
his point. Thank you, sir.
Evening, my name is James Fisher. I am a lifelong Winter Park resident. I grew up here. I'm here in support of this ordinance. I'd just like to point out a few things. First of all, we have had a successful run since 1882, I guess, of not needing an ordinance like this. And I think that's a very proud accomplishment. We should all be satisfied with having gone so far without needing to protect our residents from aggressive, hostile picketers targeting them at their homes. But at this time, it seems that that's necessary, and I would applaud the commission in adopting this ordinance. We all deserve the right to be free in our homes. We all deserve the right to be free from harassment in our homes. We all deserve the right to have a place where we can go to be away from the adverse consequences of some of our professional decisions. I, for example, am a criminal defense attorney, and I would hate to think that somebody dissatisfied with my decisions in a criminal case would come to my home and picket at my address, repeatedly harassing my family simply because they were dissatisfied with my professional performance. And it seems like to me that you've done a very good job of crafting a careful ordinance that allows for ample opportunities for the exercise of free speech in appropriate and reasonable manner. And I would just stand in support of this ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown, I have a question in regards to section C, where it says it should be, where it limits protests in public street, public right of way, or sidewalk. support of protecting people in their homes and providing for safe haven in their homes. Is that too broad there? Is that?
Well, you have to tie it back to the definition of the term
Yes, it ties back.
picket, protest, or conduct. If you go back to the preceding page under A1, picket, picketing, and protest means something very specific. So it was not fully appreciated in some of the presentation here. The terms picket, protest, and picketing all mean, for purposes of this section, any assembly of one or more persons who through conduct, speech, or other form of expression criticize, protest, or complain about any matter in which a particular person, group of persons, or type of person is specifically targeted for protest. So it requires that you're complaining about something, you're standing, loitering, congregating, or milling before or about, and that before or about a dwelling unit is pulled really right out of the Supreme Court case. You know, not the word dwelling unit, I think they use the word residence, but I think frankly, we've been more precise and followed the pattern from the Supreme Court case. An earlier speaker tonight during the open for public comment section made some comment about, well, if you had a person standing out in front of your house and he's screaming at you about your garbage, or a husband complaining about a wife, actually, this could apply to that. And that actually illustrates that it is content neutral. In other words, if you're complaining about a matter, we don't care what the matter is. It's content neutral, which, so in an ironic way, his complaint supports the constitutionality of the law if this is a policy you want to adopt. I also want to point out that, you know, they didn't fully explain all of Frisbee and all of Carey versus Brown and the Madsen case. Specifically pulled right out of those cases is the second part of the definition, where the justices in the majority said that one or more persons can be considered picketing or protesting even if the message being communicated is intended to be heard or seen by persons in addition to the specific residents being targeted. That came right out of the case because they argued that. They said in the appellate, during the appellate process, they said, well, we're not simply targeting this person, we're trying to express a broader message, which would be the case here, you know. And the author of the majority opinion said that's, even though there may be some intent to speak to a broader audience, you're still picketing within the meaning of this ordinance that they found constitutional, because you're targeting people inside.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Brown, did anything that was said tonight make you feel like you would like to make revisions, or are you comfortable with what you have on the table?
Well, look, I've litigated a lot of First Amendment issues over the years for cities and school boards in a variety of contexts. Federal courts look at them hard. They look at it hard. I went into this project over the weekend, a couple of weekends ago, not thinking it would be easy. In fact, I thought it might be, I think my initial comments to Randy before I dug into the law was, I'm not sure we can do it. But then when you find these cases where the Supreme Court is going on, and I'm not going to read all the quotes, but I mean, they make it very clear that protecting residential tranquility is a paramount purpose that municipalities can enforce. So, you know, a lot, like on the, to answer your question, Commissioner, there's complaint about the geography. Well, time, place, manner restrictions are very common in the First Amendment law. Alternative areas for expression are provided. We have a specific section that says Mr. Knight will find you a residential area. He'll find you a residential area or public property near, reasonably near to, or abutting a residential area, not within a buffer, and you can go there, or you can protest in any commercial zoning district as long as you comply with other laws. So I think that satisfies the requirement, because we're only talking about giving people in their homes a 50-foot respite from picketing activity as defined. In my opinion, it would be found constitutional. I mean, you know, that's, you have, you know, I've been a litigator too long to know that, you know, there's no absolute guarantee, because I know, I'm not gonna name any judges here, but I know some federal judges who are much stricter on this stuff than others. So, but I believe this is written to satisfy even the most demanding.
I'd just like
Commissioner Spring.
I'd just like to say that I appreciate your hard work on this and creating it, and fully support it and want us to pass this tonight.
Commissioners, when I grew up in Winter Park in the 1960s, I grew up with a brother who is, he's 6 inches taller than I am. He weighs a lot more, and we used to fight like brothers, you know, almost 7 years older. And there were certain things that became dirty pool when we fought. You know, I couldn't pull his hair. That was dirty pool. And yet we still fought, and now we fight verbally or other ways, you know. First of all, I condone and disagree with anyone who thinks that walking through a neighborhood is a good thing in some sort of public display of an anti-position. I think that that is in bad taste. I think that it is against the spirit of Winter Park. And I think that we have a civil society that doesn't require that. I think that's dirty pool. But I have a hard time, and I won't be supporting this ordinance, because I can't get around the fact that Congress can't make a law, and I'm assuming if Congress can't, that means probably we can't either, that prohibits the free exercise thereof or abridges the freedom of speech, the press, or the right of people to peaceably assemble. Now, is it peaceably to assemble to get 30 of your friends and march down my street or Sarah Street or Carolyn Street? I don't know. I don't know if that's peaceably or not. You know, some cities have taken that and said you need to have a parade permit, or you need to have some appropriate notice or whatever. And I could probably see how that could be done in the name of safety. I'm sure the people that came from Kissimmee and Longwood and other places in Melbourne tonight wouldn't want me walking down the streets of their home saying whatever I'm free to say, which could be heinous, it could be attaboy, it could be whatever. And I'm sure they don't want me to bring 3,000 people down their street or however many people I could arrange to do that. So I understand that we need to have some sort of public safety, and that public safety isn't just for the person at whose ever home we think we want to go picket at, it's whoever else's home that we want to picket at. And the citizens that may or may not be, that could be impacted by something like that aren't there. But I just can't get around our Constitution on this matter. And I, for one, and we may want to test it, I certainly don't support what's happened. I think the neighbors and friends who have had this happen to them, I think people, if there were anybody in this audience that did that, should apologize, and that's not within the spirit of Winter Park. I can't vote to stop free speech. As heinous as it is, as horrible as it is, and as much in disagreement as I am with individuals who think go into somebody's house because they live there and where they work, depending on what they do, whatever that is, I just can't. I can't vote. I can't vote for it. So you know where I'm going to stand.
Mr. Mayor, I hate, I hate this. I hate that we have to do this. I hate that any of our residents or guests to our city or staff members will feel insecure in their home or anywhere. And I am, as we go back to the tree ordinance, I'm a big proponent of personal property rights and personal rights and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And I'm concerned about it as well. And I just, for me, protecting our residents and our children, and if they have fear of walking out their door, boy, it's tough. It's a tough call, but that just having kids of my own and having them fearful to walk out their front door just trumps that.
Well, I agree with that. You know, and no one should live in fear in Winter Park.
Yeah. And I see your point. I take your point, and I wish there was. Unfortunately, on something like this, I don't know if there's any compromise. I think the city attorney has done a pretty good job, a great job crafting this and taking what he could to limit the impact on persons' rights of speech. but boy, just protecting our residents and people in the city just means so much more to me, so.
I also know that if people petitioned to do it in Central Park, we'd have a whole different crowd in the crowd here today, we'd have a whole different audience, and we'd have a whole
You're
different
right.
conversation.
Yes, sir.
Because there'd be people on this dais and in this audience who would say, that's not a good thing either, even if they like it or don't like it.
Well, I will absolutely be supporting this ordinance tonight. I believe that one of the major luxuries or benefits of living in Winter Park is that we do feel safe. And I believe when someone else's freedom of speech starts to become a vicious attack on someone by name at their home, we've crossed those lines. And I will be supporting the ordinance.
I'm gonna be supporting this as well. I think I follow what Commissioner Leary is one of our basic freedoms is freedom from fear. And, you know, I get paid $188.70 a month for people to petition me. We are the government, and they can come forth and say whatever they need to say to me, but my wife and daughter aren't paid to do that. And that's where I draw the line. And so I view this not so much as a attack on freedom of speech, but really it is freedom from fear. And I'm going to be supporting this. I agree. It's not something that I want to see us have to do. I think there was a time when we might not have had to do this years ago, but if this is the age we live in, this is the age we live in, and I'm going to be supporting this amendment, or this motion.
I remember one time when I was in the backyard with my little boy, and all of a sudden, police came around both sides of the house. And they were doing something to keep us safe, because my husband was in a position of being threatened by people. But I knew, as police came around both sides of the house, that there was something seriously wrong, okay? And I knew then that they were there to protect me. And I felt good that they were there to protect me. And I was glad that we had police who had the wherewithal and the foresight to take care of residents of our city. I wish more than anything that we didn't have to do these kinds of things, but we do, because we have people who feel fearful. And, you know, sometimes you can do it without ordinances, but this is something we can't. We need an ordinance that's gonna prescribe this for us, because, you know, when our city attorney has worked as hard as he has to come up with something that he believes in and can support with the Supreme Court, not the Court of Appeals, but the Supreme Court's help, I feel like that's the way we need to go. So, yeah, could we do it without that? Probably not. But he's worked hard for that, and we need it, because nobody should have to feel that way.
I completely agree with you, but, you know, I'd like to have freedom of having crazies on I-4 that aren't drunk and aren't anything else, and you know what? Even if you make a law to not kill people and you not speed and all that, people still break laws. So then we enforce the laws that we make, and we go from there. I hope this brings peace to our city. I hope this brings tranquility. I don't think it will. I think it's going to create a mess, and that's not the reason why I'm not voting for it. Again, I think anybody who thinks that they're going to make their point any better by going and sitting in front of somebody's house's door, I think is not motivated by correct instincts. Y'all ready to vote?
Yes, sir.
Clerk will read the rolls.
Commissioner Leary,
Yes.
Commissioner Sprinkle,
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper,
Yes?
Commissioner McMacken.
Yes.
Mayor Bradley.
No. It passes on first reading. Ms. Brown, I don't think you need to read anything under item 12E. Will the commission on this matter?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'd like to, this is on the fee schedule.
It is.
I'd like to table the fee schedule for tonight simply because part of the fee schedule and part of the recommendation on trees was a change to the fee schedule, and I'd rather wait till that comes back to us with a little bit more of a hearing, because one of the things in the recommendations that we haven't addressed yet, we're gonna get some more information on it, that I'm very opposed to, is the $110 per